Doug, come on up.
It's really an honor to be here. My name is Douglas Mackey. I just want to first off start by thanking, of course, the Phyillis Schlafly Eagles. It's amazing to be here at a forum for Mrs. Schlafly, and of course John, her son, who I got to meet, and Ed for being here, Cynthia for inviting me, and all the J6ers for their courage, and of course my wife for her strength over these past couple of years. So who am I? In 2016, I posted a meme on Twitter that said, you can text your vote for Hillary Clinton, you don't have to go to the polls.
Classic.
4 years later, in January of 2021, I was minding my own business. 7 days after Joe Biden was inaugurated, I got a knock on the door at 7 a.m. 4 FBI agents and a couple of local police. We have a warrant for your arrest. I said, okay, for what? So I was arrested and charged with a federal crime of conspiracy against rights. They alleged that posting this meme was part of a larger conspiracy to try to deny people their right to vote. Why was I arrested? This gets into political weaponization. In 2016, I just had a Twitter account and I was posting a lot of pro-Trump content, sort of a Trump supporter almost from the very beginning when he walked down the elevator. And they said that I was one of the top 150 most influential Twitter posters on the 2016 election. So why did they investigate me? Well, they were apparently upset about that, and of course also they thought nobody could possibly have made a joke on the internet without Russia being involved. So they suspected that Russian misinformation or disinformation was behind this whole conspiracy. Of course, they were never able to, they never proved any of that, they never alleged any of that. They just got me on one single charge of conspiracy. So they were plotting this prosecution. There were elements in the career bureaucracy, the prosecutors, who were plotting this prosecution starting in 2018 during the Trump administration. Of course, the Trump administration looked at this case and said, are you kidding me? They didn't bring this prosecution. Obviously, they felt like it was not actually a conspiracy to try to stop people from voting, but that it was just a joke, that nobody would actually take it seriously, and they didn't want to harm free speech rights by bringing a case like this. So anyway, in 2023, I married my lovely wife, and 2 months later, I was on trial. On the first day of trial, I learned that my wife was pregnant. The whole trial was completely Kafkaesque. They didn't have any direct evidence, or any evidence really, that I had conspired with anybody to post this meme. It was just something I saw on the internet and posted it to Twitter thinking people would find it funny. But they twisted a guy's arm and got him up there on the stand to say that we had a silent agreement. A guy I'd never met, never seen in my life, thousands of miles away. We had a silent agreement to stop people from voting. Of course, they didn't have any evidence of intent, that I actually intended, by posting this meme, that people would actually fall for it. They went through the Eastern District of New York, knocking on people's doors who texted Hillary to this number and said, did you see this meme? Did you lose your right to vote? Nobody said even that they saw the meme, or they obviously didn't think it was real. So that's what they spent our taxpayer dollars doing. Probably millions of dollars prosecuting this case. Not only that, they wanted to try to create an intent, because that's part of the statute. They need to prove intent. So they just used a lot of smearing of character, as you can imagine. The judge let everything into the trial, basically. And they also, of course, they impugned freedom of association and free speech. Well, you were in a Twitter group with these people, so you must have all plotted together, even though there's no evidence of anyone plotting. So after a Brooklyn jury, now this is a whole other story, they brought the case in Brooklyn, New York, even though at the time I was living in Manhattan. Those are two separate federal districts. So how did they establish jurisdiction? Well, they said, first of all, that, oh, well, you broadcast the meme, so you kind of forfeit jurisdiction. No court, no circuit court, no Supreme Court decision has ever held such a universal theory of jurisdiction where, if you think about it, they can grab you in any district and throw you into a trial completely across the country. And then they also said that, well, you tweeted and we can prove that the tweets had to have gone on the wires underneath the water surrounding Manhattan or over the bridge, and Brooklyn shares jurisdiction with Manhattan for the waters surrounding, so therefore we have jurisdiction. And despite all of this going into a very sort of liberal jurisdiction, not as bad as DC, not nearly as bad as DC, because we almost actually, I don't want to say won the trial, but the jury deadlocked twice. And it seemed like they were going to hang. Of course, in federal court, they have something called an Allen charge, where the judge says to the jury, listen, we all came here together and spent so much time and energy and money, the prosecution, the defense, so you really need to go back and really try hard one more time. Don't change your mind, don't change your, don't go against your own conscience, but really go hard and try one more time. And all the jurors are shifting around their seats. And they looked like they were the ones on trial. They looked like they felt like they had committed a crime. So of course, Friday afternoon, after the jurors got their lunch, we get a note from the jury. All right, they have a conviction. So we filed some post-trial appeals. Bottom line is I was sentenced in October of 2023 to 7 months in federal prison for posting a meme, a federal felony, and a $15,000 fine. I got in the plane, I flew from Florida, I live in Florida now, I flew up to New York, and as soon as I landed I got a call. My wife had to have an emergency C-section that night. So it was too late to turn around and go home, so we went through the sentencing process. And so the next day, that night, my son was born, and we flew home the next day. So, okay, so where do we stand now on this case? So, Trump was inaugurated, and the election was an amazing night, because I didn't know if I win the appeal, are they going to try to retry the case? We don't know what's going to happen. So basically, at the sentencing hearing, we said, okay, so we have a strong appeal. First of all, this statute has never been applied in this way. And there's no basis for venue. No court has ever upheld venue on this basis. And also, we felt like they didn't have the evidence to prove the case. And so we said, okay, we're going to move for an appeal bond pending appeal. You stay out of federal prison until you have the appeal decided. The judge turned to the prosecutor, and I wasn't expecting them to disagree. They said, oh, we disagree, Your Honor, and this was after she had filed a 50-page opinion, basically stating that our arguments were no good. So they wanted to save face, the prosecution disagreed with the bond, and the judge wanted to save face. So she just denied the bond outright. We went to the Second Circuit, and cooler heads actually prevailed there. They granted the appeal bond, a 3-judge panel with 2 Democrats and a Republican. So we have a really strong appeal, which was heard in April. And so it's been almost an entire year. We're waiting on the decision. We're hoping to win the appeal. And so we can hopefully set a precedent. We'll see if the Second Circuit agrees that the law cannot be abused in this way, and also jurisdiction. Venue cannot be abused in this way. So that's where we stand. The fight continues. We're waiting for the circuit court. I was honored that President Trump mentioned my case in his order on weaponization, ordering the DOJ to investigate political weaponization. So I'm very optimistic that Attorney Ed Martin here and the whole weaponization committee can take a look at my case and see what went on there. Not to mention all the sort of prosecutorial abuses. They withheld evidence and we got evidence mid-trial that the Clinton campaign didn't even really take this meme seriously as an attempt to, to dissuade voters. Not only that, there's so many, there's a whole litany of abuses here. The co-conspirator was allowed to testify under a pseudonym because apparently it was dangerous. Trump supporters are so dangerous that he got to testify in federal court under a pseudonym because he might be harassed online. I kid you not, this is what the prosecution argued and the judge ruled. So this is something that only has really ever happened, not even in mob cases. We're talking about, like drug cartels, Mexican drug cartels or Al-Qaeda, ISIS. Those are the only times really when people have been allowed to testify anonymously. So at this time, we have not asked for a pardon from President Trump because we're hoping we can set a precedent with this appeal. And I finally want to say, I believe that, I'm hoping that God's hand is in this and that we can set a precedent. But really, it's been also a blessing in disguise, all of the great supporters. And I'd like to acknowledge everybody that's been supportive and all the great supporters, especially Cynthia, who I only met a few months ago. And I believe God's hand is in this. How can you help with this? Amen. And how can you help with this? My case, number one, we've had great prayer warriors, just prayer, of course. And anybody who wants to support me financially can do so by going to memedefensefund.com. So thank you so much for having me. It's really an honor.